All right, and we're live with Andrea Fernandes with
Hello.
Speke Media Group. How are ya?
I am good. Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, doing very well. So yeah, let's jump right into it and give us a little bit of background where you're from and how you got started with your career.
Ooh, okay. My name is Drea. I am from a little country in South America, Guyana. Came to the U.S. when I was 10 years old. Had no idea I would ever do PR. Had no idea what that even was. Decided to go to school for journalism. Wanted to be a reporter. And life kind of laughs at our plans sometimes, and here I am in PR. Found a way to just like think about the things that I was passionate about, and that really came down to elevating Black stories and positive Black voices, and that led to Speak Media Group and me doing what I'm doing today.
Awesome. So taking us back to when you first started, you're growing up, what exactly, where did you see your plans? Like who did you want to be? Who was Drea at that time?
Growing up, you mean like when I was like a child? Because
Yeah, when you were a child, what did you aspire to be? Where did you see yourself going in the world?
well, like I think when we're children, a lot of our dreams come from our parents or like whatever like that figure is in our lives at the time. And at the time, like I wanted to be a doctor because I was from a country where like we didn't have many options on what you could be, and what like for us success was you're a doctor or a lawyer or maybe a teacher. But there weren't many options. So I think at the time, just like based on where I was from, it was much more limited. Um, but of course, like coming to America, that's when I started to like really expand everything. And I was like, oh, you can be like anything in America. Like there's so many opportunities,
Yeah.
so many options. So yeah. So I think
What age did you come over to America?
I was 10.
10. Awesome. What
Mhm.
are some of the major differences culturally that you've experienced? Have you experienced any barriers from being from another country, or were you kind of just too young?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty young when I came, but I still spent my childhood there. So I think a lot of things like just language. Like we spoke English in Guyana, but I think like the dialect is, it's very different. There are certain words that I use that Americans don't use. We were ruled by the British. So like there are a lot of, like for example, I still say veranda instead of balcony. So like sometimes I'll struggle find like the American way to say something, and being in PR that could really kick my butt sometimes because I'm like, oh, what's the American way to say this? So I think like one of the biggest barriers for me is just like being in this field where communication is everything, and like me having to be in my head sometimes and think like, okay, what's the correct, not the correct really, but like what's the American way of saying this thing that I'm so used to saying in like another way.
Right, right. Awesome. So, once you went to school, and after that, you then started your career. Tell us about that time, from the time you were in school and to the time that you launched Speak Media Group.
Yeah. So when I was in school, my focus, like I said, I went to school for journalism, wanted to be a reporter, focused heavily on broadcast journalism. And I, went through the motions of that, learned a lot about just being a journalist. And then once I graduated, had no idea what I was doing, didn't land a job in journalism. That did not work out at all. But I also don't think I poured my heart into it, and I think everything really does happen for a reason. So like maybe somewhere in me, I knew that like wasn't my thing. So once I graduated, I started working at TV1, and that opportunity came from a good friend of mine who was just like, "Hey, come hang out at TV1, and like just see what it's like." And ended up getting a job literally the same day that I went to just like hang out and meet his boss. So that was really great. And then between that, it was just like a lot of me figuring my life out and figuring out like what like even my personality was and what my passions were, because like I'm so big on aligning your personality with your passion and like finding your purpose. So like for a few years I really was just on this path of exploration and trying to figure out like who I was and like what my purpose in life was and how I serve. And through all of the jobs I had following college, I think I slowly like started to tailor and find like, okay, I'm like, I like this thing in this job, but I don't like this thing. So like, I think sometimes and especially like having Caribbean parents, I was taught like you can't just leave a job in a few months, and I was like, well,
Right.
so I was just like kind of figuring out those things throughout like my journey, and I started to like just collect the things that I knew I loved, and like I held on to those things. And then once I started to feel like there wasn't really like a home for me to hone in on my purpose, I was like, let's just like create it. Like if there's something
Right.
that isn't making you happy or isn't making you feel fulfilled, like chances are you can just make it happen.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, if the opportunity isn't there, create it. And
Exactly.
that's definitely what I think a lot of people should start exploring and definitely live by. So with that being said, you started with TV1, and
Mhm.
breaking into the industry can kind of be a little bit difficult. There's a lot of gatekeeping and entertainment.
Yes.
So yeah, so like as a woman of color, how have you been able to just break down those barriers consistently and keep achieving your goals?
I think just knowing that they exist for me was enough. I'm really big on like, if I can't change something, just find a way to work with it, work through it. So like my thing was just aligning with the people who I knew could help me. Like I was just big on moving strategically. And it's like, all right, well, I can't change the fact that there are going to be gatekeepers. I can't change the fact that it's a tough industry to break into. So like, what's the plan, and how am I going to get through, and how am I going to get in and stay in? And it was just like finding people who I knew would help. So like that's why I'm so big on mentorship, and like not just like finding mentors, but also like being one, because it's like I know that someone else opened the door for me. So like, knowing that once I'm on the inside, opening the door for someone else, and hopefully that we can keep that system going. So that's really all it comes down to, like finding those people who aren't gatekeepers because they exist. You just gotta network and find them so that they can help you, and then you find your way to pay it forward.
Right. And just with that being said, what are some of your biggest challenges that you've seen throughout your career?
I would say immediately, and still to this day, just being a woman. I think sometimes people can think it's easier, but a lot of times you walk in, maybe you might not get taken seriously until like you show people, hey, I'm not just like a woman who's here to hang in this space. Like I actually know what I'm doing, and I'm demanding that respect without doing it in a way that is, I guess, rude. Just like respectfully demanding that respect in any room that I enter. Being a woman and knowing what comes with being a woman of color. I feel like a lot of times we are very much bottom of the barrel. So just having to work through that has been a challenge for me. And I won't even say that it's something that I've fully overcome. Like I think every day it's just like figuring out how to work through that. Of course, like, aligning in Black spaces is super helpful, but it's still the reality. Like I am still who I am. I still show up as a Black woman, as a woman of color. So working through that every day is still pretty much of a challenge.
Awesome. So you are the CEO and founder of Speak Media Group, formerly known as Transformation PR. So before we get into Speak Media Group and what you guys are doing, tell us about a time where you made a transformation in your personal life, where you just had a huge transformation just personally, where you felt like you really had to just transform yourself in order to align with your passion and your goals?
I like that. I almost got kind of scared when you first asked that, because I was like, shoot. But then it kind of just like hit me. Like the biggest moment, and I want to say it was like a life-changing moment for me. People know I talk about this all the time. I watched The Secret on Netflix. I went to Miami for Art Basel, and someone recommended it. They were like, you should watch The Secret. Like everything you're saying sounds like you're like on the cusp of like this breakthrough. And, I really think God strategically places people in your life for a reason. And this woman like talked to me about The Secret, and like she told me all about it. And I think at the time I was still like struggling to understand my power, I guess, and like just understanding myself. And once I watched, I was like, oh my gosh, like everything I need is really within me. And it broke down the law of attraction. And I think once I genuinely believed in the power that I have within myself, and once I understood what it meant that like just everything I need is right within me, I was like, oh, it's over. like life
Right.
changed for me in that moment. And I was just like, oh, unstoppable. Like as long as I'm fully aligned and I'm like just doing everything that I need to, like there's no reason why I can't execute and get every single thing that my heart desires or better.
Right.
So
Yes.
formative
That's
moment for me.
definitely for those watching, definitely take notes. The Secret on Netflix.
Don't watch The Secret. I don't hold things like this. And if I know that something worked for me, I'm like, please take it. Like this thing really worked well for me. It literally changed my life. So always recommend it to everyone who asks questions like that or everyone I meet.
Yeah, definitely. So now, where Speak Media Group is now, tell us about, where you started with Speak Media Group and where you guys are at now.
Yeah. So that goes back to like you mentioned, I started as transformation PR, and then I started to just kind of like refine the mission and refine the purpose. And I think when it hit me was really like with my early work with Revolt, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this like I think just being with the team, I started to see that they were putting into words all these things that I was passionate about, but like couldn't quite find it on my own. And that really helped to develop like just all the things that I knew I wanted, which is elevating Black stories. Um, so Speke Media Group. Speke came from a mountain in Africa. It's in Uganda. So this is going directly back to the roots of everything that I talk about being passionate about. I was like, okay, we're going to go all the way back home. So there's this mountain in Uganda. And I was just like, at the time I knew I wanted something that was based on a mountain. I had this whole like, I always talked about how mountains are really important to me because it just kind of shows. Let me backtrack. Actually, I want to like make sure I'm explaining really well. So I always talk about wanting to be with my clients on the climb and not just watching them when they're at the top of the mountain, right? So for me,
Right.
it was just like, how can I ensure that I am choosing a name that is representative of the fact that I want to be with my clients every step of the way. Like it's not easy to climb this mountain and people always celebrate you once you're on the top, but I'm like, I want to be with them every step of the way. Like I'm going to struggle with you. I'm going to go through all of this with you. We're going to figure it out together. So I always knew like I wanted the name to be a mountain. And then, you know, the idea of speaking in PR is so powerful. Like I want to elevate voices. I want to like help people to understand how powerful it is when they speak. So for me, it's just like once Mount Speke was discovered and once we found that, I was just like, oh my God, this is it. Like it was just a no-brainer for me. So that's how we
Right.
landed. I hope that made sense. I'm like, there's a lot of like just different parts that happen in order for like Speak Media Group to happen.
Yeah, definitely. So just you mentioned being with your clients and watching them climb to the top and wanting to experience that journey with them. Tell us about more about your ideal client and who you like to work with and what stories you like to tell.
Yeah, my ideal client is definitely like people who I like to pay attention to what they're doing for society. Like, how are they also helping to further this mission that I'm personally passionate about? Like, how are they also helping to elevate Black and Brown stories and voices? And it might be just like through their own success, but like, how are they maybe lending a helping hand? So I'll use Jonathan Jones for example. He's an NFL player that I work with, and he created the Next Up Foundation, and through that, he's helping other young people of color to find their voice and to like chase their dreams, and he's inspiring them. So like for me, that's an ideal client because it's just like they're furthering that mission that I'm personally passionate about. And now for me, it's just like, hey, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm playing my part in society that I'm supposed to be playing. I'm helping to elevate these Black voices because it's so easy to find these negative stories on Black and Brown people every single day. So like when I find a client who's also like doing their part to like just further this mission that I'm on, like that's gold for me.
Yeah, it's like easy. You can really thrive once you can align yourself with your clients as well. And just aligning with your clients and things like that. Sometimes, you have to set expectations, even though, you want to be with them through this journey. How do you set those expectations as a business owner? And how do you create boundaries?
Oh, wow, that's good. I think most recently what I've seen is just having to sometimes break working relationships because I feel like we're not aligned. So I think like one thing I try to do is exactly what I'm doing now, just speaking on it, ensuring that whoever I'm working with understands what I'm after, like understands like what my goal is and what I'm working on. So it's just like, for me, it's always like that mutual understanding. So like doing frequent check-ins, like making sure we're always aligned. If I feel like the client's ever maybe doing something that I feel like isn't really ethical and doesn't align with my values, then, you know, for me, that's where things break. And that's where it's just like, you know, you have to put those boundaries up to say like, okay, well, this no longer aligns with what I know is right and what I'm chasing. So like, you just kind of have to find a respectful way to step away. And like, for me personally, like I've had to do that not too many times, but I've had to do it since starting Speke Media Group. And, you know, it's always a hurtful, like a heartbreaking situation, but like, you know, like for me, it's like you have to have those boundaries. Otherwise, like you're just going to be led by like, you know, nothing of value. So,
Right.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
really,
you always have to take that time to kind of reset, unwind, and make sure, you can show up for your client. I think that's, as a business owner myself, I think that's where clients fail to, realize and understand in order for me to help you, I have to be okay. So
oh,
if I show up full and ready to go for you, sometimes I might have to, take a step back.
yeah. And when you like listen to your body, you know, like in your heart, when like something isn't right or when something is just like maybe like violating a way that you might feel. So I think that's also like super important just as a business owner, like stepping back to listen to yourself and like listening to your heart. I know it might sound kind of corny, but like really taking that time to listen, like, is this thing right? Is this what I should be doing? And ensuring that you find that professional way to communicate those things with your client.
Right. Yes, exactly. Well, you help so many people and you have learned a lot along the way. So your expertise is probably, really high, really high up there. So speaking of, your expertise and things like that, what are some things that you've learned along the way? Kind of something, the most valuable thing you've learned just coming up in the industry?
Um, like coming up in the industry, or like, or with Speke Media Group
Just as a publicist.
as a publicist.
Yeah.
Um, I want to say it goes back to what I just said, like taking those moments to listen to yourself, doing those check-ins with yourself. I think being a publicist, like you're in an industry that moves extremely fast. And just like when you take that time to listen to yourself, you're able to know, like, am I ensuring that I'm practicing this thing in a way that's right, in a way that's like not unethical, right? So
Right.
like I think like that's a major play for me is just like having those quiet times, like meditating, listening to yourself, listening to like what you know you need to do, I guess. So can you repeat your question one more time? I want to make sure I'm hitting on it and I'm answering that correct.
Yeah. So just with your expertise, we just wanted to know what's the most valuable thing that you have learned throughout your career.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's it. It doesn't even like really relate directly to PR. It's more of a self thing because, like you said, if you're not full and you're showing up depleted, like nothing gets done. So like
Right.
understanding, even most recently, like understanding the power of ensuring that you're good mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like that is to me like the most valuable thing, and I guess that can apply to any career. But I think like that's probably the biggest thing, especially like as of lately, that I've been learning about like just what's needed in order to show up. And you know, like it's not even necessarily something that's like based on like my expertise just in PR, just I would say like life teaching you these things, and understanding like what happens when you choose the other path of like showing up empty or like not checking in with yourself and like seeing the results of that.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you maintain, as a publicist, how do you maintain for other people and other publicists that are looking up to you? How do you maintain that relationship with journalists and the people on the other side?
Remembering that they're people. Like I
Yeah.
think when I put us all on the same field, it becomes so easy. Like I think just like I don't think anyone is better than me. I don't think anyone is below me. I think like we're all human, and like operating from that place has always kind of like kept me both grounded, but also like just it makes it really easy to connect with people because it's like we are all essentially the same. Like we're all beings that like came into this earth. We're all working on finding our purpose, and we're all not here forever. So like just kind of keeping that in mind, it becomes really easy to connect with people. I used to deal with terrible imposter syndrome, and like once I started to think about that, I was just like, oh, well, like I'm here for a reason, and you're here for a reason. So like, it's super easy to connect with people in that way. Like once you realize like, hey, we're all just trying to find our way here. We're not here forever. So, you do the best you can, and like with the time that you have, and that's really it.
Yeah, definitely. So, you spent a lot of time with Revolt as one of your clients. Tell us a little bit about that and how you've been able to align and kind of help their brand grow, and some of your favorite parts about working with them.
Oh, I love it. I honestly, I was thinking the other day, I was like, do I have anything I don't love about Revolt? Like, I think it's just one of those things that from day one, I've realized it just works for me. Like just from the freedom that I'm able to have. Like one thing I learned or realized from day one that I still love to this day is just the level of trust that the executive team has placed in me. Like once they saw that I'll bring my ideas to them, I'll say, hey, like I think this is a strategy that we should run, and they'll say, okay, well, if you believe in this and like you believe that you can execute this, go out and run. And like I love being at a Black company that allows me to like just let my creativity run wild, and like just knowing that they know that I'm always gonna like do it in a very responsible way, to where I'm always like ensuring that I'm keeping the company like front of mind and making sure that I'm doing everything that's gonna help to put us in an even better place. I have to say that's one of my favorite things, and just like the Revolt mission overall, like knowing that Revolt is all about putting or creating a platform for Black stories and Black voices. And it's just like, it literally is hand in hand with everything that I care about. So it's just like, again, it's one of those things that for me never feels like work, because of like who they are, what their mission is, the leaders on top, everything that they stand for. And like the fact that they just let me do what I have to do, and I'll carry it out in the best way I can because I care about the company.
Awesome. Speaking of them trusting in your strategies and everything, does social media, how much does that play into some of your PR strategies?
Like social media in general.
Yeah. So do you use that as a part of some of your social media strategies, or
Yeah.
sorry, PR strategies?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't work on the social media end, but I think one thing that's super important when it comes to social media is just being aware of what's going on, right? So like timeliness in PR is a really important thing. So like if I'm creating a strategy and I see like from social media something is shifting, then that might mean that I need to shift my strategy. Like I never want to create a strategy that's deaf to what's going on. So like if I'm working on something and I know I know that like there's a current topic that's trending, then I might have to say, okay, well, we need to re-strategize because like maybe we need to be more sensitive to this topic, or maybe now is not the right time to push this thing, or, like just always like keeping an ear to the street. And I like everything is on social media. So I do, it's like my excuse for using social media. Like if I feel like I'm scrolling Instagram too late, I'm like, well, I'm technically working, guys.
Right.
To see like what's going on, to ensure that I'm like executing my strategy in like the best way possible. Like a more recent example is like we're working on putting out a press release, and now I'm like scrolling social media to see like if now is the right time, So like a lot of times we do, well, all the time we definitely use social media to see like what's going on, to see if like we need to re-strategize in any way. Just like knowing what's going on is super important.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. And speaking of, social media, people will take things and they'll run with it. How do you control the narrative and you don't let the media to control it?
It is hard. That is, going back to like even what you asked about challenges, I think that's another piece. Like you can't control what people do or say. You can only control how you react to it. So I think that's exactly it. Just like just knowing that it's gonna be frustrating. Social media is sometimes gonna be extremely annoying, but you just have to like ride the wave and like do the best you can to react in a way that's not like negatively reacting to something, and just like understanding it's something that's it's completely out of your control what people are going to say on social media. So like just riding the wave in the best way possible. We come across that with clients all the time, like where maybe they might say something and social media blows it up and then everyone runs with it. But also like the way the news cycle works, like no one really focuses on it for too long, but I still like try to make sure that we're keeping things clean in the best way possible. And just like riding the wave because it's gonna happen. We can't do anything about it.
Oh yeah. And riding the wave, I know plug some of your clients. What do you have going on? What's Revolt have going on? And some of your other clients, ride that wave.
I know. I'm like trying to see what I can speak on right now. Like there are a few. I'm super excited. I don't think I can talk about it just yet. I'm super excited about a few new clients starting next month because again, like these people they're people who are also like just helping to elevate that mission that I hold near and dear to my heart. Revolt, we have a big announcement coming tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So little secret, every year we have Revolt Summit. So this year it's rebranded, it's bigger, it's better. So the full announcement on that is going out tomorrow morning. I'm super excited about it. I've been working on it for the past few weeks. So I've just like been pouring my heart and soul into it and just building that out. So like in September, if you're in the Atlanta area, if you can fly into Atlanta, definitely check it out. I can't say too much, but I feel like that was already a lot. Jonathan Jones is another one. I
heard it here first.
Yes, the exclusive. Jonathan Jones is another one that I just love talking about because it just shows like, this NFL player who he could just like do his thing on the field and go home and chill because he's already super successful in everything he does. But he's like, no, I want to do more. I want to do more for my people. I want to like go back and like, pull others up. So stay tuned for things there because we are working on growing that even more. His Next Step Foundation has done phenomenal work in the community. So of course, now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, how can we ensure that we're elevating this and taking this to the next level? That's always my goal. It's like, how can I step in if my client is they're all already amazing. So it's just like, how can I put sparkle on that and make y'all even better? So Jonathan Jones is another one to definitely look out for the Next Step Foundation. If you want to donate for the kids, there's also a way to do that. I'm going to work some more on that soon so that people have access to just like learning about what these athletes are doing. So like if people do want to give, it's amazing because like you're pouring back into the community in like whatever way you can as well, whether it's through volunteering or like monetary donations or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and we'll definitely leave the link in the comments as well. So stay tuned for that. So just when it comes to Black storytelling and things constantly changing in the media, how do you continue learning and just elevating yourself? Tell us about your continued learning and what you do to make sure that, you're staying on top of your game.
Yeah, I read a lot. Like, I don't know that there's any other substitute for that. I have it like I'm super routine. I realize that once I fall off routine, I like don't know how to function. I'm like a malfunctioning toy. So I'm like, I try to stick to my routine where it's just like in the morning, I am like checking, and I absolutely like hate reading like hard and serious news, but I just like skim headlines. I see what's going on. And then on a more personal level at night, I'm reading books that are more like personal development. I'm reading books that I know are like, like filling me in a personal way. So just having that balance of reading about work, but also like reading, I love self-help books. I like,
Yes,
I know like
me too.
I love me a good self-help book. It helps me to unplug at night. Like I know that once 10 o'clock hits, unless like I'm dealing with some kind of crisis, I am picking up my book and I am getting in bed or my couch or whatever, and I'm comfortable and I'm just reading because like that helps me to both like unplug, but also keeps your mind going, right? Like, so like my goal is to always that like I'm constantly like just getting new information in whatever way that looks like. And like for me, when I'm reading those books at the end of the night, it's both calming, but it's also like just opening up my mind to newer things.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever struggled with that? Just kind of, when you're coming up and you're trying to figure things out, you don't quite know everything. Have you ever struggled with that?
Yeah, I'm a Taurus, so I think what I did struggle with when I was younger is just, I want to say we're pretty stubborn people, and sometimes you can't hear that you don't know it all. So I think just again like constantly learning. And by the way, you broke up for the first part of your question, so if you could repeat that, that'd be really helpful. But essentially just always learning. Can you repeat the first part of your question?
Yeah, definitely. So I was saying, have you ever struggled with not knowing things as you were coming up in the game and you were before you were just in your
Mhm.
prime?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So like not knowing things in PR, like, yeah, I told you, imposter syndrome used to kick my butt hard because like I was in like such a rush to like know things, and I knew that I didn't know everything. So like just having that patience with yourself too is so important, because like, you know, it can be frustrating when you see someone else who's been doing it for a while know everything, and like you know that you still have a lot to learn. That used to kick me hard and like definitely hurt my spirit. And I was just like, oh, I suck. And then, you know, you start like telling yourself all these negative things. And then you learn that like, well, you know, there are people who've been doing these things for years, and they've built years of experience, and like, I'm going to get there. It's just going to take time. So like just having that patience and like learning at your own pace, I think is really important.
Yeah, I feel like, you definitely dropped a lot of gems during our conversation and gave a lot of advice for those wanting to follow in your footsteps. But do you have anything else to add, just as far as advice you would give someone that wants to, follow a similar journey as you?
Yeah, I would say, I guess my theme today is really like checking in with yourself on like what it is that makes you happy. And like my big thing was not really listening to the naysayers and listening to people who are just like, you, I don't think this is a good idea. Or, you know, like I, like at the end of the day, you're the one who has to spend all that time doing whatever it is that you do. So you're the one who has to check in with yourself and block the voices out. Like for me, meditation is so important, just spending that time in silence and like figuring out what my next step is, and not allowing life to exhaust me or overwhelm me. You know, like everything you do, like I always say, like keep a pure heart, because everything you do flows from that. So my advice really isn't directly tied to PR or work. It's really directly tied to self and like how you feel about yourself, and ensuring that like you're okay so that you can go out and do the great work that you're called to do.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you, Drea, for your time today. You guys, this is Drea with Speak Media Group. Definitely follow her on socials. Plug your socials right here, Drea.
Yes, you can follow me at Strategically Drea. Shout out to the stranger, by the way. So Chris had asked me where I got the name Strategically Drea. I had been thinking about an Instagram name for a while, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then this guy like randomly commented on my picture on Instagram, Strategically Drea, and I was like, that's it. So like
That's the
whoever
one.
who was who gave me that Instagram name, I will not take credit for it because I did not come up with it, but I love it. So Strategically Drea on Instagram, on LinkedIn, it's my first and last name, Andrea Fernandes.
Awesome. Thank you, Drea. Thank you for your time. And we will be following you and catching up with you, and definitely on the lookout for the Next Up Foundation and also Revolt's big announcement tomorrow.
Yes, 10 a.m. Stay tuned.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.